The dining room fell silent except for the clinking of silverware. My sister Lauren's words hung in the air like poison gas. My 10-year-old son Marcus stopped eating mid-bite, his fork frozen. "What did you just say?" Kept my voice level. Lauren leaned back, swirling her wine glass with that familiar smirk. "I'm just saying single parenthood has its challenges. Marcus seems a bit behind, don't you think? Maybe if he had a father figure. He has a mother who loves him." I cut her off, reaching over to squeeze Marcus's shoulder. He was staring at his plate now, his ears red. Of course. Lauren's husband, David, chimed in, not looking up from his steak. "But statistics show that children from two-parent households perform better academically, socially." "David's right," my mother interrupted, dabbing her mouth with a napkin. "We're just concerned about Marcus's development. He seems so withdrawn compared to Lauren's children." I watched my nephew and niece, both younger than Marcus, playing on their tablets at the table, something I'd never allow. But apparently they were the gold standard of child rearing. "Marcus is doing fine," I said firmly. "He's on the honor roll, he plays piano, he volunteers at the animal shelter every weekend." "That's wonderful, dear," my father said in the dismissive tone he'd used my entire life. "But Lauren makes a valid point. The boy needs stability. He needs structure. Maybe if you'd thought about that before." "Before what, Dad?" My voice was still calm, but something cold was settling in my chest. "Before my husband died in a car accident 4 years ago?" The table went quiet for exactly 3 seconds. "We're not talking about that," Lauren said, her voice taking on a theatrical sympathy that made my skin crawl. "We're talking about now. About what's best for Marcus. And honestly, living in that tiny apartment, working those long hours at the bank, barely scraping by." "I'm not scraping by." "Really?" Lauren raised an eyebrow. "Because Mom mentioned you couldn't afford Marcus's vacation. We went to Europe for 3 weeks. The kids loved Barcelona." Marcus pushed his plate away, the sound harsh in the quiet room. "I'm not hungry." "See?" Lauren gestured toward him like he was evidence in a trial. "This is exactly what I mean. The attitude, the sensitivity. Kids need consistency, they need examples of success, they need..." I opened my purse and pulled out the manila folder I'd been carrying for 3 days, ever since the bank notified me of the upcoming foreclosure. I'd debated bringing it tonight. I'd almost left it in the car. "They need what, exactly?" I placed the folder on the table. Lauren barely glanced at it. "They need to see what a stable household looks like. 2 parents, a nice home, financial security." "Jennifer," my mother warned. "Lauren's just trying to help." "Help?" I smiled and it felt like my face might crack. "Is that what this is?" "Don't be dramatic," Lauren sighed. "We're family. We're allowed to have concerns. And quite frankly, if you can't handle a little constructive criticism..." "Your mortgage is 3 months overdue," I said quietly, opening the folder. "The bank sent the foreclosure notice last Tuesday." Lauren's wine glass stopped mid-swirl. "What?" "Your mortgage." I pulled out the first document, sliding it across the table. "The one on that beautiful 4-bedroom colonial you love to post about on social media. 3 months late. Total arrears of $17,462. David's face went white. "How do you..." "I work at the bank, David. I'm not a teller. I'm the regional loan officer. Have been for 2 years. My father leaned forward. "Jennifer, what are you..." "Let me finish, Dad." I kept my voice steady, almost conversational. "Lauren, do you want to tell everyone why your mortgage is 3 months late? Or should I?" Lauren's hands were shaking now, her wine glass forgotten. "This is private information. You can't just..." "David lost his job 6 months ago," I continued, pulling out more papers. "He hasn't told anyone. Lauren doesn't work because, as she loves to remind me, she chose family over career. Their savings ran out in August. They've been living on credit cards since then." My mother gasped. "Lauren, is this true?" "It's temporary," Lauren said quickly, but her voice was thin. "David has interviews lined up. We're just in a transitional..." "You're about to lose your house." I laid out the foreclosure timeline. "You have 45 days before the bank takes possession. Probably less, actually, since you haven't responded to any of their notices." "This is cruel," my father said, his face reddening. "Exposing your sister's private business like this." Is it more cruel than mocking my dead husband? I asked softly. More cruel than calling my son a mess in front of the entire family? More cruel than the past 4 years of subtle digs about my parenting, my job, my life? The silence was absolute now. I've sat through Sunday dinners listening to Lauren talk about her perfect life, her perfect house, her perfect marriage, I continued. I've watched Marcus internalize every comment about single parents, every implication that he's somehow less than because his father died. I've smiled through it all. Jennifer, my mother started. I'm not finished. I pulled out another set of documents. Do you know who's been paying part of your mortgage, Lauren? For the past 3 months. Lauren's eyes widened. No. $1,200 a month, I said. Transferred from my account to yours. You probably didn't even notice because it goes straight to the mortgage company. Why would you? David stammered. Because you're family, I said simply. Because despite everything, I didn't want to see my niece and nephew lose their home. Because I thought maybe, eventually, you'd stop treating me like a failure and see that I was managing just fine. Marcus was staring at me now, his expression a mixture of confusion and something that might have been pride. But here's the thing about bank transfers. I pulled out the final document. They can be stopped. I called on Friday. The last payment I made is being reversed. It should process by tomorrow morning. You can't do that, Lauren whispered. I already did. I gathered the papers back into the folder. So that brings your arrears to $18,662. Due immediately or the foreclosure proceeds. My father slammed his hand on the table. This is vindictive. This is me standing up for my son, I said, my voice finally rising. This is me refusing to let you people make him feel small anymore. This is me reminding all of you that I don't need your approval, your advice, or your pity. We were just trying to help, my mother said weakly. No, you were trying to feel superior. I stood up, pulling Marcus with me. There's a difference. Lauren's face went from white to red. You're going to let us lose our house over a few comments? A few comments? I laughed, but there was no humor in it. Lauren, you've spent 4 years making my son feel inadequate. 4 years of implying that he's damaged goods because he doesn't have a father. Do you know he asked me last month if it was his fault that his dad died? Because he must have done something wrong to deserve being just half a family? My mother's hand flew to her mouth. Those were your words, by the way, I said to Lauren. From Easter dinner. Half a family. Marcus remembered. I didn't mean. You did mean it. I picked up my purse. You meant every word, every implication, every smug little comment about my tiny apartment, my long hours, and my scraped-together life. Well, here's something for you to think about while you're packing up your perfect house. I own my apartment, paid in full. No mortgage. And those long hours. I'm the youngest regional loan officer the bank's ever had. I make 6 figures. I could have bought a house twice the size of yours. Then why? David started. Because I wanted Marcus to grow up humble, I said. I wanted him to understand the value of hard work, of earning things, of not measuring his worth by the size of his house or the price of his clothes. I wanted him to be kind, empathetic, and grateful. But I'm done letting you people mistake humility for weakness. I looked at my father. And Dad, before you say anything else about what Marcus needs, you should know that he's been accepted into the accelerated program at Edison Academy. Full scholarship, based on his academic performance and his essay about overcoming loss. He starts in January. My father's mouth opened and closed. The withdrawn boy you're so concerned about? He wrote an essay that made 3 admissions counselors cry. About his father, about grief, about finding strength in adversity. About having a mother who works hard and loves him and teaches him that family isn't about perfection, it's about showing up. Marcus squeezed my hand. You want to know what Marcus really needs? I asked the silent table. He needs people who see his value. Who celebrate his strengths instead of highlighting his losses. Who understand that being raised by one present parent is better than being raised by 2 parents who are too busy maintaining appearances to actually parent. I looked at Lauren, who was crying now, mascara running down her face. For a moment, just a moment, I felt a flicker of sympathy. Then I remembered Marcus pushing his plate away, his small voice saying he wasn't hungry. You have 45 days, I said. Maybe David can find a job in that time. Maybe you can liquidate some assets. Maybe you can borrow from your perfect friends with their perfect lives. But you won't be borrowing from me. Not anymore. Jennifer, please. My mother reached for me. You can't just. Let it go, my father said quietly, but he was looking at me with an expression I'd never seen before. Might have been respect. I've let it go for 4 years, Dad, I said. I've let go of every insult, every implication, every judgment. I've let Marcus absorb your disappointment in me, your pity, your condescension. But tonight, when my sister looked at my son and called him a mess, I realized I've been letting go of the wrong things. I should have been holding on to my anger. I should have been protecting my son from your toxic perfectionism. I should have stopped coming to these dinners the first time Lauren made Marcus feel small. So yes, Dad, I'm letting it go. I'm letting go of this family's opinion of me. I'm letting go of the need for your approval. I'm letting go of the guilt I've carried for not being who you wanted me to be. I pulled out my phone and opened my banking app, turning it toward Lauren. See this? This is my savings account. $230,000. I could pay off your mortgage tomorrow and barely feel it. But I won't. Because my son is watching and I need him to see that you don't reward cruelty with kindness. You don't enable bullies even if they're family. We're not bullies, Lauren sobbed. You're worse, I said. You're bullies who think you're being helpful. That's the most dangerous kind. I looked at each of them one final time, my parents sitting frozen in their chairs, David staring at his empty plate, Lauren crying into her napkin, my niece and nephew finally looking up from their tablets with confused expressions. Marcus and I won't be coming to Sunday dinners anymore, I said. Maybe once you've figured out how to treat people with basic respect we can try again. But until then, enjoy your meal. Enjoy your judgment. Enjoy your superiority. I started toward the door, Marcus's hand in mine. Jennifer, my mother called after us. You're making a mistake. I turned back one last time. No, Mom. The mistake was letting this go on for so long. The mistake was thinking that being family meant accepting mistreatment. The mistake was teaching my son that love means tolerating people who make you feel small. But we're family, she whispered. Family is supposed to lift you up, I said. Not tear you down to feel better about themselves. As we walked to the car, Marcus finally spoke. Mom. Yeah, buddy. That was really cool. I laughed and it felt like something breaking loose in my chest. You think so? Yeah. You stood up for us. He paused. But Mom, were you really paying Aunt Lauren's mortgage? I was. Why? I unlocked the car and we both got in. Because I hoped that if I helped her she'd eventually see that I wasn't the failure she thought I was. That maybe she'd be kinder. But she wasn't. No. She wasn't. I started the engine. Sometimes people need to feel superior to someone else to feel good about themselves. And I let myself be that someone for too long. Are they really going to lose their house? I thought about it as we pulled out of the driveway. Probably not. Your grandfather will bail them out. He always does. Then why did you tell them all that stuff? Because they needed to know the truth. They needed to know that their judgment was based on assumptions, not reality. And you needed to see that we're doing just fine, Marcus. Better than fine. He was quiet for a moment. I never thought I was a mess. My heart clenched. You're not. You're perfect exactly as you are. I know, he said simply. I was just sad because Aunt Lauren said it. But I didn't believe her. I glanced over at him. This resilient, incredible kid who'd lost his father and never once let it define him. When did you get so wise? He shrugged. I learned from you. We drove home in comfortable silence, leaving behind the perfect house, the perfect family, the perfect illusion. My phone started buzzing almost immediately. Texts from my mother, my father, even Lauren. I didn't look at them. Mom. Marcus said as we pulled into our apartment complex. Yeah. Can we order pizza and watch a movie? I smiled. Absolutely. And Mom? I'm glad it's just us. Me too, buddy. Me too. As we walked up to our small apartment, I realized something. I'd spent 4 years trying to prove I was enough. But I'd been enough all along. The folder sat in my purse, evidence of secrets and struggles I'd uncovered. But the real revelation wasn't about Lauren's mortgage or my job or my savings. It was simpler. Some battles aren't worth fighting. But some battles, the ones for your child's dignity, their self-worth, their understanding that love doesn't come with conditions. Those are worth everything. I'd held on to it too long, all that anger and hurt. But now I was letting it go for real. Not the anger at their treatment, that was justified, but the need for their approval, their acceptance, their validation. Marcus and I were enough. We'd always been enough. And anyone who couldn't see that didn't deserve a seat at our table anyway.